Hi, everyone. The presentation topic I chose to present about is the foundations of environmental health in the United States. Before I dive into my topic, I would like to introduce myself. So, my name is V Win, and I am a transfer student from Wake Technical Community College. I graduated Wake Tech in December 2019 with my Associates of Arts and Associates of Science degree. I am currently a junior and a first generation college student. And my career and goal is to be teaching environmental science at the high school level. So, the table of contents will give you a brief insight as to what I will be going over in today's presentation. In the overview, I will talk about what environmental health means. Then I will talk about the EPA, the USDA, and how that relates to an event called Black Sunday, the NCEH, which is created by the CDC, the environmental health section, which is a part of the NCDHHS, a summary of everything I have gone over, and some words I would like to leave with you guys. So, what is environmental health? Well, according to the National Environmental Health Agency, environmental health is defined as the science and practice of preventing human injury and illnesses and promoting well being by identifying and evaluating environmental sources and hazardous agents and limiting exposures to hazardous physical, chemical, and biological agents in the air, water, soil, food, and other environmental media or settings that may adversely affect human health. Environmental health is crucial for us human beings. We live and interact with the environment day to day. Trends throughout history show that there is a direct correlation between the health of people and the health of the environment. For example, if the air or water quality of a city is poor, then that means the residents within that city have a higher chance of developing health issues. That's why there are local and federal agencies established to identify and tackle any and all environmental health threats. So, the first agency I'm going to talk about is the EPA, also known as the Environmental Protection Agency. The mission statement of the Environmental Protection Agency is to is to protect human health and the environment. EPA headquarters is located in Washington, D.C., but they have other locations across the United States. In North Carolina, we do have a EPA located in Research Triangle Park. What is interesting about our EPA location is that it deals with research rather than policy making or decision making, which other EPA location across the United States handles with. So, what led to the creation of the EPA? In 1962, author Rachel Carson wrote the book Silent Spring, which tackled the effects of pesticides in the environment. Throughout the 1960s, there were growing concerns of air and water quality. Astronauts aboard the International Space Station took photos and compared to previous year's photos and noticed that there were an increased amount of smog and pollutants in the air. In California, offshore oil rigs had an increased amount of oil that were spilling from their rigs into the ocean's water. A river in Cleveland, Ohio had chemical contaminants in it, which ended up bursting into flames. The American people at the time had an increased concern about the environment and demanded some sort of protection. So how did the government respond? President Nixon proposed the idea of the EPA in July 1970s by and presented 37 points about what he hoped the EPA would accomplish. Some of the points included establishing a national contingency plan to deal with oil spills, funding research to tackle automobile pollution, and requesting funds to improve current water treatment facility. On December 14, 1970, the EPA was established and Mr. William Ruckelshaus was the first administrator to head the EPA. Obviously, the EPA today does more than dealing with oil spill and car pollution. Like mentioned earlier, the EPA does conduct research and studies to see if there's any way they can improve the environment and deal with other environmental threats like invasive species that can be detrimental to our ecosystem. Currently, Mr. Michael Regan is the administrator under the Biden administration. The EPA is planning to reboot their climate change website as well as rejoining the Paris Climate Accord. They are focusing on these two topics right now because the previous president administration believed that climate change was not important and that it was not a global threat. And the previous administration also removed the United States from the Paris Climate Accord, which is which is an agreement between over 100 nations worldwide that promise to lower their country's carbon emission and try to shift away from being dependent on non-renewable resources to renewable resources like solar and wind power. The next agency I'm going to talk about is the USDA, or the United States Department of Agriculture. Just like the EPA, its headquarters is also located in Washington, D.C., but there are also locations throughout the United States. The United States Department of Agriculture is currently being overlooked by Mr. Thomas Vilsack, who is the 32nd USDA secretary. Before being appointed by President Biden, Mr. Vilsack actually served as the USDA secretary under the Obama administration. The USDA oversees farming, ranching, and forestry. They also regulates meat inspection, as well as meat grading, food quality, and nutrition labeling. President Abraham Lincoln was the one who created the USDA on May 15th, 1862, and President Lincoln considered the USDA to be the People's Department. So, what was Black Sunday? Black Sunday was an event that had taken place on April 14th, 1935. It was a major dust storm that had created havoc for many states across the Great Plains. While dust bowls and dust storms were common throughout the country during this time period, this was the worst one by far. Cars randomly stopped in the middle of the street due to the high amount of dust that went into the vehicle, and people had to crawl on their hands and feet just to dig around to find shelter. The visibility was so bad that you cannot see anything in front of you, and some people believe that it was the end of the world during that time. On April 27, 1935, Congress concluded that the wastage of soil and moisture resources on farm, grazing, and forest lands is a menace to the national welfare. They responded to Black Sunday by creating the Soil Conservation Service, which is now known as the USDA Natural Resources Conservation Services, or NRCS. Today, NRCS focuses on soil quality throughout the United States and provides funding to assist farmers, ranchers, and foresters because they are a part of the foundation for our country. The next agency I'm going to talk about is the National Center for Environmental Health. And the mission statement of the NCEH is to protect people's health from environmental hazards that can be present in the air we breathe, the water we drink, and the world that sustains us by investigating relationships between environmental factors and health, developing guidance, and building partnerships. So the National Center for Environmental Health is a part of the CDC, or the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. We have heard a lot about the CDC within this year and a half with COVID, but we're not talking about that agency today. Instead, we're talking about a branch of that. So in 1980, the CDC created the Center for Environmental Health, which dealt with health issues and deaths that are caused by environmental factors, which is what the NCEH deals with today. Well, in 1987, the CDC decided to add an additional responsibility to CEH, which dealt with non-occupational injuries, which led to the name change of the Center for Environmental Health and Injury Control, or CEHIC. In 1991, the word national was added in front of the name, so it would be National Center for Environmental Health and Injury Control. But in 1992, the injury control program was so successful that they decided to split the CEHIC into two departments. So now we have the National Center for Injury Prevention and Control and the National Center for Environmental Health. Today, the NCEH continues to do research and monitor environmental factors like air and water quality nationwide while relating potential health issues that could be caused by these factors. They discuss a lot of health topics, environmental health topics, as well as medical health topics like asthma, lead and mercury content in blood, which could be by exposures to chemical, noise-induced hearing loss, not because of concerts or anything, but due to noise pollution, correlations between health issues and mold, and carbon monoxide poisoning. So let's get away from Washington, D.C. and return home by talking about the environmental health section, which is a part of the Department of Public Health, which is a part of the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services, or NCDHHS. So the environmental health section, again, is a part of the Department of Public Health. The mission statement of the environmental health section is to safeguard life, promote human health, and protect the environment through the practice of modern environmental health science, the use of technology, rules, public education, and above all, dedication to the public's trust. There are four branches underneath this section, but I'm going to focus on only three because the centralized intern and training and authorization branch is honestly just the training for any members that work in any of the other three branches or any of the health inspectors. So the other three branches that I'm going to focus on are the Food Protection and Facility Branch, the Children's Environmental Health Branch, and the On-Site Water Protection Branch. So starting off with the Food Protection and Facility Branch, which most people understood them as the food inspector. Well, under this branch, they created the Food Protection Program, where they review and establish standards that protects consumer from mishandling of food. The mission statement of this program is to reduce the risk of foodborne illnesses and other communicable diseases by ensuring reasonable protection by providing progressive leadership, resources, and education for the promotion of public health, safety, and confidence for the people. We know some of the health guidance provided by the Food Protection Program if we have worked in fast food or restaurant. For example, there's a certain way you have to wash your hands, and cooked meat cannot be placed in the same location as uncooked meat. What people do not know is that the Food Protection and Facility Branch also oversees the construction and safety regulation for pools, the sanitation guidelines for tattoo parlors, and the maintenance and, again, establishments of the state institutions. The next branch is the Children's Environmental Health Branch. And within this branch, they have created three programs that kind of oversees the entire branch. So the first program is the Child Care Sanitation Programs, which sets standards and guidelines for child care centers that ensures the safety and health of the children within the facility. The second program is the North Carolina Childhood Lead Poisoning Prevention Program, which works with other agencies such as science or scientific agencies that conducts research and medical agencies that collects the blood sample of the children to track and monitor cases of childhood lead poisoning. Their end goal is to identify early signs of lead poisoning and eventually to have zero cases of childhood lead poisoning in the future. The final program created through this branch is the School Sanitation Program, which creates and enforces sanitation standards for all public and private schools statewide. And the final branch under the environmental health section is the on-site water protection branch. They are responsible for handling water treatment as well as wastewater treatment. They do continuous water inspection to ensure private wells are maintained. They work with local health department, geologists, engineer, soil scientists, and other agencies to ensure that our water quality, the water that we use to drink, cook, and shower with, is safe and within normal range. All three of these branches include continuous education, constant training to ensure that the members that are working within these branches that they know and are keeping up with any new regulations coming into place. So I understand that was a lot of information that I have given to you guys, but in summary, I talked about the Environmental Protection Agency and how it came about, how the United States Department of Agriculture helped the people that were affected by Black Sunday, that major Dust Bowl storm, the National Center for Environmental Health that was created by the CDC, or the Center for snap. I'm so sorry. I forgot what the CDC stands for. Um, and I talked about the environmental health section and the 3 out of 4 branches that are a part of it. So before I end this presentation, I would like to discuss as to why I chose this topic. I understand that there could have been a million other topics that are more interesting that I could have chose, but the reason why I want to chose this topic is that as humans, we have a right to live in a safe environment, whether that means that we are physically safe from threats or we are emotionally and mentally safe. I don't feel comfortable living in a world where I know that when I step outside, I could have a chance of getting asthma because there's a lot of smog, or I might get a chance, or I might get some sort of illness by drinking the water, or get salmonella or E. coli based on the food I eat. It is important that we do know who is there or what has been created to protect us in times where we feel threatened. We can go to these agencies and ask them to advocate for us. Just like how Dr. Gerald showed us in the last 3 to 4 documentaries, where these advocates are talking about their plans or what they have done to fight for environmental rights. So, with that being said, I want to show you my sources before I go. All the information I got for my presentations are listed here. And thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being a part of this presentation. And I hope you guys stay safe and enjoy your summer vacation. Thank you.